Hello and welcome everybody. Today we continue our Gambit course and start with a new sim. How to beat the Petrov defense with the Gambit. So after e4, e5, knight f3, something like almost 200 years ago, the Russian chess player Petrov introduced the move knight f6, intending, I would say, counter-attacking white's pawn on e4. And even today, this is one of the most popular chess defense. The main idea is that after knight takes e5, black cannot immediately capture the pawn on e4, since after queen e2, queen on e2 and king on e8, knight f6 and knight c6, white is winning immediately by this discovery check. Indeed, instead capture on e4 instantly, black has intermediate d6 move, which is sending away knight, and after knight f3, knight takes e4, black is getting out of trouble. Even today, this is one of the most important theoretical positions, and we have almost all top players are using the Petrov defense as black. And extremely difficult for white to break fortress of Russian defense, as I say. So this fortress playing very successfully the former world champion Kramnik. Many times it's used by other famous chess players like Boris Gelfand, Michael Adams, and of course long list. Indeed, in this position after knight takes e5 and d6, almost 150 years ago, Scottish chess player John Cochrane, as we say, found a brilliant idea. So he played knight takes f7, sacrificing the full piece and getting only 2 pawns. I would like to tell you a bit about the Cochrane. I heard many different stories about it. People know that John Cochrane was one of the inventors of the Scotch game after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and d4. As well, he was quite close friend of Staunton, the well-known English chess player. But I know the Cochrane not just from his gambit line like this knight takes f7, but also when I read the articles about the Bobby Fischer when he prepared his, I would say, brilliant back to the Chess Olymp in 1772, he was one of the well-known player who studied thousands of chess books. And when people were asking, Bobby, why are you so strong? How you reach this level of chess? He said, I studied thousands of chess books, and the best chess game, and took from all of these books and from all of these games the best. And that's what I have now. I have a well-known understanding of classical ideas, tactical ideas. So why I'm talking about this story? Because in one article, before the world champion match in 1972, Fischer asked his friends to find the games and books about Cochrane. So it means that Cochrane was one of the classical chess players which game were studied by Bobby Fischer. So it means that idea knight takes f7 even in 1917 already came to the Fischer, and all ideas played by Cochrane. By the way, I studied a bit Cochrane's game there. I would recommend you also to look at it from your chess database. Lot of very nice ideas, brilliant ideas even, I would say. So even we can say that Cochrane was never been in the list of the top chess players on the previous history. Still, his tactical idea, his play was quite brilliant, and we can understand it from the first game, which played with the Cochrane Gambit, which was played in 1848 against Monjhandar in Calcutta, where Cochrane went for continuing his advocate career. Knight takes f7. This is the first game which was played with that gambit line. What for? White is sacrificing his piece. First of all, as a compensation, we get 2 pawns. White is achieving quite strong position in the center. So white is having extra pawns in the center. White is ready to build his strong center after d4, f4, and then trying to move forward the pawns after e4, e5. This idea, by the way, well known from games of Philidor, who said that pawns, one of the most important pieces on the chessboard. Pawn is the soul of chess. And I believe that Cochrane decided to use the principle of Philidor when discovered this gambit idea. So after king takes f7, second part of the compensation, not just strong pawn center, but also black's king, which is quite unhappy in the center. And black has to spend time and energy to get his king out of the center, out of this dangerous place from f7. As well, it's not so easy to find the safe placement for a king, since black's king side is quite ruined. So we have only g6 and h7 pawn, and even a lot of options for white. Start direct attack with bishop c4 check, intending black's king almost immediately. At the same time, white's main plan, just to complete the development of the king side, to build a strong pawn center, and to prepare pushing white's pawns in the center. d4, knight comes to c3, f4, bishop could go or to d3 or to c4, and pushing e4, e5 would completely destroy black's position on the king side. First game played with this line, continued bishop c4, so Cochrane immediately attacking black's king. So aiming with the check. Maybe not so great a deal to play immediately bishop c4. Later on, the theory found that a d4 move is much stronger, or even knight c3. Indeed, bishop c4 move was played in this first historical battle. King e8. Definitely, black's best reaction here would be bishop e6, trying to trade white's attacking pieces and limited white's attacking potential. Indeed, king e8 was played. Short castling, not allowing black to capture the pawn on e4. Why? Because after knight takes e4, simply white could play rook e1, and after d5 and d3 or even queen h5 check, black is having not just 2 pawns down, but also piece is gone on e4. So white is completely winning. So if black cannot touch white's pawn on e4, he has to think about how to complete his development. And it's not so easy because black's king is stuck in the center. And still black has to spend lot of time for getting out of trouble. c5, trying to prevent white from playing d4. I would say that white already here has enough compensation for a piece. Even white could develop something like knight c3 or f4. Indeed, Cochrane played h3, avoiding any business with black's bishop g4 or knight g4, intending maybe to attack white's king side. Queen c7, f4, start moving the pawns towards the black's king. So white is intending e4, e5 at right moment. Knight c6, knight c3, so finally white completing the development of his minor pieces. a6, a4. So definitely black was not that experienced player, and he continued playing with his queen when bishop e6, bishop e7 would be recommended, of course. So he played queen e7, allowing white to play knight d5, and only here black realized that trading knight would be deadful because rook e1 in forthcoming move, and black is in big trouble. So after knight d5, black played queen d8. And white is playing with a style of Italian school. d4, open up the center. It's one of the main rules, which later on was introduced by Morphy in his famous game. So black's king in the center, we have to open files and diagonals for our pieces and to break through the center, destroying black's position there and creating the decisive mating threats. C takes d4. Continue with the same tactics. e5. Knight takes d5. Bishop takes d5. D takes e5. Bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and now white is bringing his most powerful piece in the game. Queen h5 check. Big surprise, black cannot play g6 because after queen takes e5, the rook on ha is gone. So it means that black has to move his king once again. King d7. F takes e5. King c7. Rook f7 check. Now bishop d7 will be met by e6. That's why black is trying to escape with his king on the queen side after king b8. But pass pawn should be pushed. e6 with the new threat, bishop f4. Look at all black pieces. All black pieces on the back rank. Bishop d6. Bishop g5. Continue developing with the tempo. Queen b6. a5. Queen c5. b4. Queen e5. This move looks so strong. Black is starting his own counterattack, but Now white made just one move and black found himself in completely losing position. Bishop f4. Great shot. White is sacrificing the queen, which black is unable to capture. After queen takes h5, white is coming with the greatest bishop takes g6, and this is a checkmate. So after bishop f4, black forced to capture the pawn on e6, and Cochrane is coming with the next brilliant move. Queen c5. Black's bishop on d6 is completely pinned. White is intending also queen b6 checkmate. It's the same. Second, white is having all his pieces almost hanging, but black cannot capture any of them. Queen takes f7 will be met by bishop takes d6. That won't happen in the game. King b7 and queen b6 checkmate. Brilliant checkmate. What else? Bishop takes f4. White is checkmating also in 2 after queen b6, bishop b7, queen takes b7. And any other move like bishop b7 is not leaving black any chance after bishop takes d6. And next move is rook c7 with a very fast checkmate. So black resigned already after queen c5. Queen takes f7, bishop takes d6. Like we saw before, doesn't change the picture. Black is completely lost. So this was the first game played by Cochrane with his famous gambit variation. 100 years since Cochrane started to play his gambit, and this gambit was played from time to time, but the big popularity started in the 90s when many chess players decided to look at the old ideas of Cochrane. First game I would like to show you after the historical game we studied between Miklos Galias and Ferenc Pastor from the Hungary Open Tournament in 1999, which shows a lot of very useful ideas of how to manage the Cochrane gambit. After e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight takes e5, d6. White continues with knight takes f7, king takes f7, and played the modern d4 move. White is immediately creating the strong center. White's pawn on e4 looks like hanging, but black cannot capture it. Let's understand why. After knight takes e4 and queen h5 check, black's king is having not so many opportunities. After king g8, white is deciding the game immediately after queen d5 check. Checkmate is coming. Bishop e6, queen takes e6. If black plays g6, saying white is winning back the piece, keeping the extra pawn after queen d5 takes e4. And king e7 is allowing white to play simply queen e2, and once again the knight is pinned after d5 only answer and f3. White is winning back a piece, keeping the huge advantage. And finally, king f6 doesn't work because after queen h4, white is not just attacking the knight on e4, but black's queen on d8 is in trouble. So that is not allowing black to support the knight anymore. So white just capturing the queen. Game is over. So when knight takes e4 is not possible, that makes black task quite difficult. White, as I explained before, continued developing all his pieces, completing by the castling on the king's side. White f pawn is coming to f4. Bishop could support white center after bishop d3. Short castling, bishop e3, e4, e5. All this plan is very, very typical and classical in that position. So let's understand how black could react in view of white threats in the center. First of all, we have to complete the development of the black's king side. So the most natural plan is to move the pawn on g6 and bishop to g7, playing somewhere with the rook, and finally escaping with the king to g8. Of course, white is not allowing it. g6, knight c3, bishop g7. And at that position, black is just one move away from playing rook e8. But this move almost never could be played. Bishop c4 check. Aiming the black's king and force black to play bishop e6. Bishop takes e6, king takes e6. And instead of immediately pushing the pawns e5 or d5 or f4, white is just completing the development. Still, black has to spend time and energy for bringing his king out of the center. At the same time, white is improving his position by pushing f pawn, then e5 pawn. And we can very fast understand that black cannot solve all his problems at once. King f7, f4. Only now black realized that his plan is not real. After rook e8 and e5, black cannot capture on e5 after f takes e5. Black is just losing the knight because of the pin. And playing with the knight somewhere like d7 would completely ruins black's king side after f4, f5. And white is continuing his strong attack on the king side, not just intending e6, but also f take g6. In case of g takes f5, white could bring his queen to attack, queen h5, and bishop comes to g5. Black is in big, big trouble. Look at that. Just example. Next rook is coming to f5. Knight is coming to d5. Huge initiative on the king side for just one piece. So black is trying to avoid all these threats. So not possible to play immediate rook e8. Black is challenging the center after d6 and d5. Looks quite good in case white is capturing on d5. But of course we are following the rules of Philidor and improving our pawn chain. e4, e5, not just attacking the knight, at the same time locking the bishop on g7 and intending f4, f5. So white's pawn's pair in the center would bring to black's king a lot of headache. Knight e4. f5, continue pushing in pawn. Knight takes c3. b takes c3. Knight c6. Black somehow completing his development. But queen f3, already intending f take g6 with a decisive checkmate attack. Let's say after move like queen h4, f take g6, king take g6. Here is a checkmate in one. Queen f5 or queen f7. So queen f3. Black is trying to escape after rook e8, intending to sacrifice already all material. Let's say after f take g6, king g8, and g takes h8, king h8, to sacrifice all the pawns on the king side, but to take the king to the safe place on h8. Of course, in that case, white is already having material advantage and quite good position. Indeed, why? To destroy our strong pawn center. Queen h3. White is found the new target, h7 pawn. After g takes f5, queen takes h7, rook takes f5 is coming. Black's king still in big trouble. Knight e7. Only chance to support the f5 pawn is made by rook bishop g5. Black is completely hopeless position. The threat is rook takes f5, bishop takes e7, e6, rook e1, rook h8 played. But after rook takes f5, we can realize that black cannot escape anymore. What would happen in case of king e6? White would simply play queen take g7, king takes f5, and finishing the black's journey after queen f6, king e4, and queen f3 checkmate. Same would happen after king g4, h3 check, king h5, and g4. Unfortunately, after the finish of the game, black's king cannot find the safest place on the chessboard. And the game is finishing with a great pawns checkmate move. Anyway, what we can study from that game? That is extremely difficult for black to complete his development after the sacrifice knight takes f6, knight takes f7. Also, white is having the main intent moving forward all his pawns in the center, d4, e4, f4, and destroy black's development completely. So by moving this pawn, we are not only locking the black pieces, but also taking the full control over the most important center squares. Since white is having 2 pawns for a piece, for black it's extremely difficult to find the right way to sacrifice back a piece, because in that case black's king is still in the very dangerous position in the center, and opening the files in the center will only bring more fire for the black's king, unfortunately. So on the next lesson we will see that not just beginner, intermediate players are using this nice and interesting gambit line, but also on the very top level we can see this line is playable, and playable quite successfully. So see you on my next lecture about the Cochrane gambit. Bye.